Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today's we will discuss an exercise. First part is a multiple choice questions. Tick the correct answer. First one is when we kick a stone, we get hurt. This is due to inertia, velocity, momentum, reaction. The D option is a correct option. When we kick a stone, we get hurt. This is due to reaction. 3.2 An object will be continue its motion with constant acceleration until option A the resultant force on it begins to decrease, the resultant force on it is zero, the resultant force on it becomes to increase, the resultant force is a right angle to its tangential velocity. The option B is a correct answer. The resultant force on it is zero. Which of the following is a non-contact force? Friction, air resistance, electrostatic force, tension in a string. Electrostatic force is a non-contact forces. Friction, air resistance, tension in a string, all these are type of contact forces. A ball with initial velocity p hits a solid wall and bounces back with the same velocity. Its momentum after collision will be p prime equals to p dash is equals to minus p dash is equals to 2p, and p dash is equals to minus 2p. B option is correct. P dash will be equals to minus p. 3.5 A particle of mass m moving with velocity v collides with another particle of the same mass at rest. The velocity of first particle after collision will be v minus v 0 minus 1 over 2v. Actually, basically, what he was saying, a particle of mass m1 moving with velocity v1 and a particle of mass m2 at with velocity v2 equals to 0. When these two balls are collides to each other, they will be transfer all the velocity to v2. That v2 will be equals to v1 and v1 will be equals to 0. That means C option is the right option. 3.6 Conservation of linear momentum is equals to Newton's first law of motion, Newton's second law of motion, Newton's third law of motion, none of these. That is equals to Newton's third law of motion. An object with a mass of 5 kg moves at constant velocity of 10 meter per second. We have to given value of mass and velocity v1. A constant force acts on, what is the force will be acting on time in 5 seconds on the object and give its velocity, and that velocity is a final velocity, final vf velocity. In the opposite direction, the force acting on the object, calculate the amount of force. As we know that that is a given values mass m1, v1 velocity, v2 velocity. We can write as a vi and vf final velocity. Time is a 5 second. We calculate value of acceleration. Formula of acceleration is a final velocity minus initial divided by total time. So acceleration will be equals to minus 2.4 meter per second square. According to a Newton's second law of motion, F is equals to ma. Mass will be 5 kg and acceleration we have to calculate it value minus 2.4. We'll be putting all these values over here, and that value of force will be equals to minus 12 newtons. Option C is a correct option. 3.8 A large force acts on an object for a very short time interval of time t. In this case, it is easy to determine magnitude of force, time interval, product of force and time, and none of these. Where what is we are giving a force and we are giving a time interval. The product of force into time will be give a value of impulse. So option C will be equals to for product of force and time, which is equals to, which is called impulse. 3.9, a lubricant is usually introduced between two surfaces to decrease friction. The lubricants decreases temperature, acts as ball bearing, prevents direct contact of the surface and provides ruling friction. We know that हमने पढ़ा था कि lubricants जो होते हैं वो क्या करते हैं, lubricants को यूज़ करने से प्रिवेंट किया जाता है डायरेक्ट कॉन्टैक्ट ऑफ द सरफेस, सरफेस के साथ कॉन्टैक्ट कम होता है जिससे फ्रिक्शन क्या हो जाती है, रिड्यूस हो जाती है. तो द पॉइंट सी ऑप्शन इज द करेक्ट ऑप्शन. हीट के साथ उसके ऊपर फोर्स जब अप्लाई करेंगे, ड्यू टू ऑफ अप्लाइंग अ फोर्स ऑब्जेक्ट विल बी स्टॉप. इट कैन चेंजेस द डायरेक्शन ऑफ मोशन ऑफ एन ऑब्जेक्ट, टर्निंग ऑफ द मूविंग कार. It can changes the magnitude of velocity, speeding up or speeding down. Give 3.2, give 5 example of contact forces. हमने प्रीवियस टॉपिक प्रीवियस फर्स्ट चैप्टर जब चैप्टर नंबर स्टार्ट हुआ था 3, तो हमने उसके स्टार्ट में टाइप्स ऑफ फोर्सेस पढ़ी थी, कॉन्टैक्ट फोर्सेस एंड नॉन कॉन्टैक्ट फोर्सेस. हाउ मेनी कॉन्टैक्ट फोर्सेस? फ्रिक्शन, टेंशन, normal force, air resistance, applied force. Force exerted by a person on another object. 3.3, an object moves with constant velocity in free space. How long will the object continues to move with this velocity? In free space, whether there is no external force acting on object. हमें पता है कि जो फ्री स्पेस है उसमें ग्रेविटी और फ्रिक्शन इफेक्ट नहीं करती. अगर ग्रेविटी और फ्रिक्शन, नो एक्सटर्नल फोर्स नहीं होगी, एक्ट नहीं करेगी ऑब्जेक्ट पे, तो ऑब्जेक्ट मूव करेगा विद द सेम कांस्टेंट वेलोसिटी इंडेफिनेटली. दिस इज अकॉर्डिंग टू न्यूटन्स फर्स्ट लॉ ऑफ मोशन, अकॉर्डिंग टू इनर्शिया. Define impulse of force. What is impulse of force? The product of force and the time duration over which it acts. Mathematically, we can write as impulse is equals to force into time t, which is equals to F multiplied by t will be equals to impulse. And impulse is also equals to change in momentum. Why has no Newton's first law has been proven on earth? अर्थ पे कहते हैं कि क्यों फर्स्ट लॉ ऑफ न्यूटन जो है वो प्रूफ नहीं है. Because what is the way? That is because it is called law of inertia. It is not proved on earth because there are always external force like friction, air resistance, gravity acting on an object. It in a perfect vacuum or in space where no external force acts, we could observe the law of inertia more clearly, as objects would continue in uniform motion indefinitely. बेसिकली स्टूडेंट्स इस क्वेश्चन के अंदर वो ये बता रहे हैं कि क्योंकि हम डेली लाइफ में फ्रिक्शन, एयर रेजिस्टेंस, ग्रेविटी, इन सब का इफेक्ट को क्या करते हैं, फील कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, ये एग्जर्ट हो रही हैं. तो एक्सटर्नल फोर्स जहाँ पे एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती होगी वहाँ पे फर्स्ट लॉ ऑफ न्यूटन्स फर्स्ट लॉ जो है वो एप्लीकेबल है. बट हेयर देयर आर डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ फ्रिक्शनल फोर्सेज आर एक्सर्टिंग ऑन दैट अर्थ. दैट्स वाई न्यूटन्स लॉ इज नॉट एप्लीकेबल ऑन अ अर्थ. When sitting in a car in which suddenly accelerates from rest, you are pushed back into the seat. Why? जी बेटे, what happens when the car suddenly accelerates? Your body tends to remain at rest due to inertia. That is the law of inertia is applied over here. Since the car moves forward, कार जो है वो आपकी आगे की तरफ मूव करती है और आप रिजिस्ट करते हैं उस मोशन को ऑपोजिट डायरेक्शन में. इट फील्स लाइक यू आर पुश्ड बैक इन टू द सीट. 3.7, द फोर्स एक्सप्रेस्ड इन न्यूटन्स second law is a net force. Why is it so? As we know that what is the mathematical representation of a second law of motion? Force will be equals to product of mass into an acceleration. According to Newton's second law, the force is referred as a net force because a total force resulting from all individual forces acting on an object. The net force is equal to a vector sum of all external forces and determines the object acceleration. 3.8, How can you show that rolling friction is always lesser than sliding friction? As we know that बेटे sliding friction क्या है? Sliding friction हम पढ़ चुके हैं कि when two surfaces, first surface of an object will be in contact with a second surface on object. This is called sliding friction. And what is in a rolling friction? When we are using a rolls instead of a, there is only a one point will be contact with a other surface. To show that rolling friction is less than sliding friction, you can conduct an experiment by comparing the force required to move a wheel while with rolling friction and a block with sliding friction on same material on a flat surface. The force required to roll the wheel is lesser than a force required to slide the block, demonstrating the rolling friction is always less than sliding friction. बिकॉज जो कॉन्टेक्ट एरिया है अब इस बॉक्स का वो इस सरफेस के साथ बहुत ज़्यादा है, इसके ऊपर फोर्स जो है वो विल बी अप्लाइंग विल बी मैक्सिमम एंड द रोलिंग फ्रिक्शन द कॉन्टेक्ट एरिया इज वेरी लो इन रोलिंग फ्रिक्शन और force will be lesser as compared to a sliding friction we will be applied. That's why rolling friction is always lesser than sliding friction. 3.9 define terminal velocity of an object. एज वी नो डैट प्रीवियस लेक्चर्स में मैंने आपको बताया था कि टर्मिनल वेलोसिटी कब बॉडी अटेन करती है. हमने कहा था कि जब हमारे पास अपवर्ड फोर्स एंड ग्रेविटी जो डाउनवर्ड फोर्स है कि दोनों एयर रेजिस्टेंस और डाउनवर्ड जो है फोर्स ऑफ ग्रेविटी उसका जो वेट है विल बी बैलेंस टू ईच अदर, दैट विल बी body moves with a constant velocity and stop accelerating at that point. That velocity is called terminal velocity of an object. अब पढ़ भी लेते हैं. Terminal velocity is the constant speed that a freely falling object eventually reaches when resistance of the medium, air resistance, prevents further acceleration. It occurs when upward force, air resistance, balances the downward force. An astronaut walking in space wants to return to his spaceship by firing a head rocket. In what direction does he fire the rocket? The astronaut should fire the rocket in the opposite direction to the spaceship. According to the Newton's third law of motion, fire the rocket creates a reaction force that pushes the astronaut in the opposite direction, allowing him to move towards the spaceship.